We're dealing with the hottest hitters in the sport here, folks. The athletes who have that one-hitter quitter, highlight reel finishing ability that most fighters would kill for. So who exactly is the single best knockout artist in every UFC division? Let's get into it and find out. Women's Strawweight, Zhang Weili. Has there ever been a more physically imposing strawweight than Zhang Weili? Well, you could certainly make the argument for Jessica Andrade. And when it comes to knockout ability, you could also bring up the former two-time champion Rose Namajunas. But let's be real, when it comes to sheer force and undeniable physicality, no fighter in the 115-pound division right now brings it all together, quite like the champion Zhang Weili. Sure, she lost by way of knockout to Namajunas in the first fight, but when Thug Rose isn't the one standing across from Zhang, she's liable to score the finish at any moment. 115-pound women aren't meant to carry as much firepower as Magnum does, but through her 23 career victories, Zhang has scored knockouts in 11 of them, a higher rate than any of her contemporaries. Can she find a way to finally get the better of her great rival Rose Namajunas in the future? Who knows, but even though she has already come up short twice, do not be surprised if she enters their trilogy fight as the betting favorite. Women's Flyweight, Jessica Andrade. If Jessica Andrade has stayed in strawweight division, she could well have made an argument for herself as the weight class's hardest puncher. But after moving up to 125 pounds, Andrade's power has very clearly translated perfectly to her new home. In the 4 fights she has taken since debuting, 3 have been victories, and 2 of those wins have come by way of KO or TKO. One of those knockouts in particular was a hammer blow right hand to the body of Katlyn Chukajin, which sent her crashing to the canvas. Andrade's power and physical strength at 115-pound was one thing, but the way she's finishing these flyweights, it seems like she's even more powerful than ever before. Valentina Shevchenko, of course, has to get a mention, but her power and finishing ability is a very different thing to Andrade's. Women's Bantamweight / Featherweight, Amanda Nunes. 2 divisions for the price of one coming next. And if you hadn't already guessed, this is just about as easy a pick as you will see in any division here. The champion of the 135 and 145-pound divisions, Amanda Nunes, is by far and away the greatest knockout artist active today. Maybe in her heyday, you could have given Chris Cyborg the nod for featherweight, but then again, Nunes made short work of her when they clashed. The Lioness just hits with a different level of ferocity to her rivals in both of these weight classes, and for that reason she has made our job very easy for this one. Flyweight, Deiveson Figueiredo. Flyweights should not be able to crack like the current champion Deiveson Figueiredo. Finding a knockout artist with enough technical skill to rise to the top of any division is tough enough, but the reigning king at 125 pounds has shown himself to be both the most vicious and dangerous fighter in the division, and one of its greatest talents from a technical level. Figgy can do it all. When he's not bludgeoning his fellow 125-pounders, he's a noteworthy submission threat. And though you would think that his cardio might be an issue, with each passing fight, Figueiredo has shown an improving ability to extend his gas tank into the later rounds. In Brandon Moreno, he has a rival who can match him shot for shot, but when it comes to pure knockout ability, there's no denying that this Brazilian powerhouse takes the top prize. Bantamweight, Marlon Vera. Bantamweight was a tough one to decide on. In the top 15, you have a wide selection of knockout artists who have a wide range of approaches to getting the job done. Guys like Corey Sandhagen are snipers who look for the perfect technical shot instead of relying on natural power. Peter Yan, on the other hand, is like a supercomputer, constantly downloading data while upping his intensity as the fight goes on. But for our money, Marlon Vera's devastating breakout year is enough to make us think that he's the most powerful man at 135 right now. His win over Rob Font may have come on the scorecards, but watching that fight live, it was clear that Vera won on knockdowns alone. The knockout of Dominic Cruz that followed served as conclusive proof of this man's status as the most lethal one-shot finisher in the weight class. Featherweight, Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria throws absolutely every punch with bad intentions. He might have a few minor tweaks to making his stamina management, but this young featherweight contender hits like a truck, something he showed with major success against Bryce Mitchell. Topuria's fantastic ground game just so happens to be his main strength, and he didn't even start consistently knocking people out until he made it to the UFC. At 25 years old, time is very much on his side, and with power like his, this dude is going to be a handful for anyone in that top 10. At the very least, he's a lot of fun to watch, but with each passing fight, it becomes very obvious that Ilia Topuria has championship potential written all over him. Lightweight, Justin Gaethje. 155 pounds was a very tough pick, and though we managed to settle on Justin Gaethje, don't think we didn't consider at least 3 or 4 others. There's no shortage of pure knockout power in the lightweight division right now. Guys like Michael Chandler, Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, Beneil Dariush, and Rafael Fiziev all deserve their mention, but based on his entire career's worth of work, Justin Gaethje has to get the nod. 19 knockouts in 23 victories tells you all you need to know about this man's prowess. He hasn't competed too regularly in the last 3 years, but when he does, you're all but guaranteed to see a finish one way or another. His streak of finishes after his back-to-back defeats to Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier showcased a different version of the highlight. A pure knockout artist who scored consecutive KOs of James Vick, Edson Barboza, Donald Cerrone, and one particularly brutal TKO of Tony Ferguson. His grappling may have a lot to be desired, but on the feet, Justin Gaethje is a handful. Welterweight, Vicente Luque. Another pretty tough pick comes next of the welterweight division. We could have very easily sided with the former champion Kamaru Usman for this one, because let's be real, that man hits just as hard as anyone within the 170-pound mix. But when you take a fighter's full career into account, it's easier to side with Vicente Luque instead. While Usman established himself as a knockout threat later in his career, Luque came into the UFC swinging for the bleachers. Powerful with either hand and more than capable of finding a submission if he scores the knockdown, Vicente Luque is always known to bring the fire whenever he signs on the dotted line to fight. And with a finish after finish making up his UFC record, he edges out the former pound-for-pound #1 Usman for our vote. Middleweight, Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira is one of the greatest kickboxers on the planet today, and after finishing Israel Adesanya with strikes for the second time across 2 different sports, there's no denying Poatin's place as one of the very best MMA fighters in the world. He's not exactly a one-trick pony, but his striking is leaps and bounds beyond anything most of his contenders will ever experience. Look at the way he dealt with Sean Strickland. Out of the entire 185-pound top 15, only Strickland and Israel Adesanya himself would elect to stand with this man for a long period of time. Izzy because of his experience, and Strickland because, well, he's a crazy person. And despite his opponent having some of the best striking defense in the division, Pereira made his reads and got him out of there before the fight had reached the end of the first round. This guy just hits differently, and his left hook might be the single most deadly weapon in all of MMA. Light heavyweight, Jiri Prochazka. Jiri Prochazka is as reliable a finisher as we have in the sport today, blessed with one of the strangest but most oddly effective striking styles in the game. Jiri drags his opponents into his own style of fight, trapping them in the type of wild brawl that he favors. Whether he uses his hands, his knees, his kicks, or his elbows, Prochazka's finishing record over the years is just about as diverse as they come. Despite being a man of well over 200 pounds, Jiri flows, flops, and spins like a man half his weight. His punches come from weird angles, and you can never be too sure of what he's trying to set up, because if we're honest, it doesn't look like he's too sure of it either. In a sport filled with unique fighters, this former champion of the light heavyweight division is just about as unique as they come. And though he parted with the 205-pound title under unfortunate circumstances, we're certain that he will have a real chance at winning it back whenever he returns to fitness. Heavyweight, Francis Ngannou. And finally, we come to the single easiest pick on the list, the reigning heavyweight champion of the world and the undisputed hardest hitter to ever set foot inside the UFC octagon. Francis Ngannou has the type of power that makes every other mention on our list look pillow-fisted in comparison. He's so powerful that he barely needs a clean connection to put your lights out. And even when faced with guys who have a greater level of technique than him, guys like Stipe Miocic, Alistair Overeem, and Junior Dos Santos, it doesn't matter. One clean or even a grazing shot from the Predator is enough to totally swing the momentum into his favor. Sure, last time out, Ngannou brought Cyril Gane to the scorecards, using a far more tactical approach than usual. But it's important to note that he was injured, and the stylistic matchup called for game plan that didn't just involve trying to take his opponent's head off. Ngannou is clearly improving fight by fight, and if Jon Jones's debut in the division does come against this hulking behemoth, it will without question be the hardest fight of his career.